Okay, this video will be going over the work offsets and the XY directions. I'll basically be covering 4 different types of origin pickups. We're going to go through a center of a hole. We're going to go through an edge of a block that would be finished. And then we're going to pick up off a rough stock, working off the center of the part, but also working off the edge, but offsetting the rough stock. And we'll go through that in a little bit. First one we'll do would be the center of a part. Maybe we have a part that we already have and we have some more modifying to do. We have to drill some more holes and we want to pick up on the edge of this part. The first thing you want to start with, obviously, is a square vise. Just like you have on the manual mills, you want to make sure you indicate your hard jaw in, make sure it's square to the machine. I've already done that, so we're going to skip that part today. So I'm going to mount my part in the machine, make sure it's nice and tight. And I'm going to use a drill chuck. You can use a collet, precision chuck, Jacob's chuck, but we're going to use the drill chuck. We're just going to mount our indicator in there. Just hand tight, is tight enough. And then we'll go into the machine, get into hand jog. We're going to move our machine into position. And I'm not going to do this just for the sake of the video. There, once you get it in there, you're going to want to rotate your quill around until the dial reads 0 and it does not move. So once you have it into position and you have the center of that hole located, you want to go into your offset page for your work offset. Now in your program that you have written or you're going to be written, you have to know what work offset number you're going to use. For the most part, we use G54. It's the most common one to use. So once we have the work offset page highlighted, you have the G54 and you have the X highlighted. You can rotate around using the arrow keys on which axis you want. So we're in the X axis and all you need to do is hit part 0 set. So that just set our X axis. Now we're going to do the same thing for the Y. It automatically bounced over to the Y axis. We're still under G54. And now we're going to hit part 0 set again. So that would set your XY coordinate for the center of a part with the indicator where it is. So we're going to go ahead now. We're going to change up. We're going to do an edge find on a block that's already has finished sides. So you mount your part in there. You can still use the same Jacob's chuck. And now we're going to use an edge finder. Here too, just hand tight is good enough. If you over tighten them, you end up breaking the edge finders. Okay, so now we have to get our spindle rotating for this. If you had just turned on the machine, you probably can't just hit clockwise. It will not go. It needs an RPM in there. So the way you can do that is you go to MDI, type in a spindle speed, S800 for RPMs, M03, and you can input that on your screen. And then once you have that, if you hit cycle start, it's going to tell you the door is open. So you do have to close the doors. And now we can hit cycle start. And our spindle turns on. Now in setup mode, you can open the doors and the spindle will maintain the 700 RPMs. Use extreme caution, safety-wise. You got a rotating spindle in there. You don't want to be doing anything that's unsafe. So you keep your hands away from the spindle. But from here, we can go into hand jog, and we can move our edge finder into position. Careful not to bring it down on top of the part. Okay, so we're ready to do our X edge find. In hand jog, you want to be in the 1,000 increment, and then you go into the part until the edge finder kicks over. So there. So now our edge finder is just on the edge of the part, just like you have in all the manual machines. Once again, you're going to go to your offset page that displays your work offsets. Now I'm just going to zero out our offsets from the previous part. So now we have our edge finder on our edge in the X direction. So here again, you want to be under G54 if that's what you have in your program. We're going to highlight the X. So now, once again, you're going to hit part 0 set. So what that did is that set the center of our quill 100 thousandths off the edge of our part because of the 200 thousandths edge finder. Remember, you have to offset that 100 thousandths. It's always best to do that right away. There's two ways you can do it. You can lift your quill up and you can move your edge finder over 100 thousandths. Best way to do that is to go into 100 thousandths increment and just give it one click. Now you have to make sure you move in the right direction. So once you do that, you can hit part 0 set again. The other way you can do it, in the preferable way, I'm going to move back over. So that's right where the edge of our edge finder hit the part. You hit your part 0 set. And now you have to mathematically input the 100 thousandths. Remember, this number, the negative 12.862, is off of machine home, which is up in this corner. So you got to think which way you want to move the quill. Do you want to move that quill closer to 0 or farther away from 0? In this case, we want to move it closer to 0, so we want to add 100 thousandths. So you have to make sure your axis is highlighted. And we're going to type in 0.1. And remember, this right enter button, that does the math for you. F1 would actually input 0.1. But in this case, we want the machine to do the math for us. We want to add 100 thousandths. So that just changed that to a negative 0.7620. Okay? If our edge was on this side, if our 0 is on this side of the part, we'd move our quill over until the edge finder hit. Once your edge finder hit, you do the same thing. You're going to hit part 0 set. Okay? Don't forget that this automatically jumps over, so you have to use your arrow keys to highlight the X. But now this time we want that quill to move away from machine home 0. So we want to go farther away from 0. In that case, then, we have to subtract 100 thousandths. And you hit right enter, and it does the math for you. The process is the same way for the Y direction. Bring your edge finder up. Sometimes it is helpful to hit it and get it out of center. Okay, so right there's our edge. So you go back into your offset page. If you're not on the work offset, you can just hit the offset button again, and it'll bring you right to it. Make sure you got G54 highlighted. And we're going to go to the Y axis. You hit part 0 set. Okay? So now we have to offset for the 100 thousandths for the edge finder. Machine home is up here. In this case, we want to go farther away from it, so we have to subtract 100 thousandths. Make sure our Y is highlighted. Minus 0.1, so we want to go farther away and do the right enter. Okay? If our 0 is on this side of the part, which generally you don't want to do, because remember, you always want your Y0 along your hard jaw. But let's just say for some reason it is on this side of the part. We'll work our edge finder up to it. Once it hits that out of center, you hit part 0 set. And now this time we want to go closer to 0, so we're going to want to add the 100 thousandths. So you go 0.1, right enter. Okay. So that's how you find your edge off a finished part. Now we're going to work with some rough stock. Let's change the part out here quick.